My key won't turn in the lock. I jiggle it, twist harder, but the familiar click doesn't come. Standing on my childhood porch, suitcase at my feet, and 3 boxes stacked beside me, I frown at the stubborn door. Dad always kept this lock well oiled. I try again, shoulder pressing against the door. Nothing. Weird. Mom knew I was coming home today. After 6 years away, college, grad school, internship, I'm finally back to claim my inheritance, to live in the house Dad left me when he died. The house where Mom and Greg and my stepbrother Josh have been living, keeping it up for me while I was gone. The door suddenly swings inward. Greg stands there, his 6-foot frame blocking the entrance. He's wearing a faded Patriots t-shirt and jeans, casual for a Wednesday afternoon. His eyes widen, genuine surprise flickering across his face before he masks it. "Rachel, we weren't expecting you until next week." His voice is pitched too high, smile too tight. "I told Mom I'd be here today. We spoke last week." I keep my tone light, but something cold settles in my stomach. Right. Memory's not what it used to be." He steps back, reluctantly allowing me space to enter. "Come in." I step into a house I don't recognize. The entryway that once held Dad's antique hall tree now features a sleek console table I've never seen before. The warm gold walls are now stark white, Dad's collection of nautical prints gone. In their place hang modern abstract canvases in shades of gray and black. My suitcase slips from my fingers, thudding against the hardwood. "You've redecorated." The words feel inadequate in my mouth. Greg runs a hand through his thinning hair. "Deborah wanted to freshen things up a bit. You know how she is." "I don't, actually. My mother never cared about interior design when Dad was alive." "Where's Mom?" I ask, still frozen in the entryway. "Shopping. Should be back soon." Greg glances at my luggage. "You know, Rachel, you might want to look at apartments soon. The rental market here is pretty competitive these days." I stare at him. "Apartments?" "Sure. Young professional like yourself, you'll want your own space." He gestures vaguely. "Independence and all that." The implication hits me like ice water. He doesn't expect me to stay. In my own house. Before I can respond, the front door opens. Mom bustles in with grocery bags, her blonde hair shorter than I remember, more highlighted. She stops when she sees me, eyes darting nervously between me and Greg. "Rachel, you're here already." She sets the bags down and gives me a quick hug that feels hollow. "We were just talking about you this morning, weren't we, Greg?" Greg nods, not meeting my eyes. "I was saying how Rachel might want to look at apartments." Mom's smile falters. "Well, no rush on that. You can stay in the guest room for now." "The guest room. Not my room." "Where are my things?" I ask. "From my bedroom?" Mom's gaze shifts away. "We boxed up some things in the attic. Josh needed more space as he got older, so we gave him your room. It made sense, since you were away at college." Something inside me cracks. "And Dad's study?" The nervous glance between them tells me everything before Mom speaks. "That's Josh's bedroom now. He's 15, he needed his privacy." "Your father's been gone 6 years, Rachel." 6 years. I was 18, standing next to his casket, when the lawyer handed me the deed to this house. Dad had left it to May, his only child, his daughter. The house he'd built with his own hands. "Mom," I say carefully, "could I see Dad's study, Josh's room?" Mom's hands flutter nervously. "It's completely different now. Nothing like you remember." I still want to see it. I walk through the transformed living room, past the kitchen with its new granite countertops, and down the hallway. The door to Dad's study stands closed. I take a breath and push it open. Basketball posters cover the walls. A twin bed with rumpled navy bedding sits where Dad's desk once stood. A gaming setup occupies the corner that held his bookshelves. The bay window where he used to read remains, but heavy blinds now block the garden view he loved. Nothing remains of him. Not a single trace. I stand motionless, absorbing the erasure of my father from his own home. The home he left to me. I remember his funeral, the weight of the house deed in my hand, the responsibility it represented. "It's just for a while," Mom had said back then. "Just until you finish college. We'll keep up the house for you." I trusted her. Trusted them. Over the years, I'd noticed small changes during holiday visits. Family photos disappearing. Dad's books vanishing from shelves. Greg subtly asserting ownership and comments about our house and our renovations. But I dismissed my unease, focusing on studies, on building my future. I turn and find Mom watching me from the doorway, her hands twisting together. "Rachel, we should talk." Yes, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. We should. In the kitchen, Mom sits across from me, eyes avoiding mine. Greg has conveniently disappeared. What's going on, I ask. Why does Greg think I should get an apartment instead of living in my house? Mom flinches at my house. Greg believes, that is, we thought. She takes a shaky breath. Greg thinks the house belongs to us now. The world stops. The house Dad left to me in his will, the one I have the deed to? He says after 6 years of us living here, paying utilities, making improvements, she trails off. You knew, I whisper, the betrayal crushing my chest. You knew it was still legally mine, and you let him believe what? That you could take it from me? I didn't know what to do, she admits, tears forming. Greg was so insistent, and you were gone, building your life. It just seemed easier to lie? For 6 years? My voice rises despite my efforts to contain it. To erase Dad from his own home? To let me believe everything was fine while you plotted to take my inheritance? The tears spill down her cheeks. I'm sorry, Rachel. But sorry can't rebuild 6 years of deception. Sorry can't erase the choice she made every day to betray me, her own daughter. What would you do if you discovered your own family had been plotting to steal your inheritance for years? Would you forgive them, or would you fight back? My decision will change everything. The attic door creaks as I push it open. Dust motes dance in the beam of my flashlight, swirling through stale air that hasn't circulated in years. I step carefully across the unfinished plywood, testing each board before putting my full weight down. Dad? I whisper to the darkness, as if he might answer. My light catches on a stack of cardboard boxes pressed against the far wall. Each bears a label in Mom's neat handwriting. Thomas, books, Thomas Navy, Thomas, photos. A family archive tucked away like shameful secrets. I kneel beside the nearest box and lift the lid. Dad's leather-bound copy of Moby Dick sits on top, the one he read aloud to me every summer at the beach house. Beneath it, dozens more volumes, spines cracked from use, pages dog-eared at his favorite passages. I press the book to my chest, inhaling the faint scent of his pipe tobacco that still clings to the pages. 3 boxes down, I find what I'm looking for, a battered metal filing cabinet drawer that used to sit in Dad's desk. I slide it open and rifle through the hanging folders until I find one marked house. Inside, the original deed with my name on it. Property tax records. And a stack of mail addressed to me, college alumni newsletters, credit card offers, voter registration confirmation spanning the last 6 years. All opened, all hidden away. Beneath these, a folder labeled Utilities catches my eye. I flip it open to find 6 years of electric bills, water bills, property tax statements, all in Greg's name. Methodical documentation establishing his residency, his claim to my home. My fingers tremble as I sort through the evidence of their deception. They'd been intercepting my mail, establishing Greg's residency, systematically erasing Dad while setting up a legal claim to adverse possession. Oh my God, I breathe, the weight of the betrayal pressing against my ribs like a physical pain. A floorboard creaks behind me. What are you doing up here? Josh stands in the doorway, backpack slung over one shoulder, his lanky frame silhouetted against the hall light. I straighten, letters still clutched in my hand, going through my father's things. His eyebrows pull together. Mom said not to mess with that stuff. I bet she did. I meet his gaze directly. Josh, did you know this house belongs to me? Legally? He shifts his weight, confusion flickering across his face. What are you talking about? This is our house. We've lived here since I was 9. Because my dad left it to me when he died, and I let Mom and Greg stay here while I was at college. I keep my voice calm despite the tremor in my hands. They were supposed to be taking care of it for me until I came back. Josh's face hardens. That's not true. Dad bought this house. Is that what he told you? We fixed it up. We've paid the bills for years. His voice cracks slightly. My room was my dad's study. I finish for him. The study in the house he built with his own hands, that he left to his only daughter. Josh backs away, shaking his head. You're lying. His rejection stings more than I expected. During holiday visits, I'd helped him with math homework, brought him souvenirs from my travels, tried to be the big sister he never had. Now I'm a threat to everything he believes about his home. I have the deed, Josh, and his will. I hold up the papers. I'm not lying, they are. He turns and thunders down the stairs, calling for his father. Minutes later, I hear his bedroom door slam, music blasting through the wall sangry. pulsing beats that vibrate through the floor. The universal language of teenage resentment. My phone vibrates as I descend the stairs. Megan's name flashes on the screen, me college roommate, now working at an accounting firm downtown. Rachel, I just got your text. Are you okay? I duck into what used to be the guest room, now my temporary space, and close the door. Not really. My voice drops to a whisper. The situation is worse than I thought. They've been plotting to take the house for years. Jesus. She pauses. Listen, my apartment has a spare bedroom. It's yours if you need it. Relief washes through me. Thanks, Meg. I might take you up on that while I sort this out. For how long? Until I get my house back. The determination in my voice surprises even me. After hanging up, I call my new boss at Mitchell Financial. I've only been there 3 days, but Douglas had been Dad's friend before he became my employer. Rachel, he answers warmly. Everything all right with the move-in? Actually, no. I explain the situation in clipped professional terms. A long silence follows. Then, take whatever time you need this week. Work remotely when you can. Your father would want me to help. Another ally. I add his name to my growing list. It's called adverse possession. Greg explains the next evening, leaning back in what used to be Dad's chair at the dining table. We've maintained continuous residency for over 5 years, paid all the utilities, made improvements to the property. While hiding my mail and pretending everything was fine, my voice stays measured even as rage simmers beneath. That's mail fraud, Greg. A federal offense. He waves a dismissive hand. You're being dramatic. We were just keeping things organized until you settled down. By erasing my father from his own home? By moving your son into his study? I place phone on the table, recording app running. Tell me more about how that was for my benefit. Mom reaches across the table, tears brimming in her eyes. Rachel, please, we're family. Everything we've done has been to provide stability for all of us, including you. Family doesn't do this. I slide a business card across the table. I spoke with Kenneth Bryant today. Dad's old friend from law school, remember? He says adverse possession claims require good faith belief in ownership. Your deliberate deception proves bad faith. Greg's face flushes. You went behind our backs to a lawyer? I'm protecting what's mine. I meet his gaze steadily. Kenneth also mentioned that Shannon Miller next door has been concerned for years about how quickly you removed all traces of Dad after he died. She's happy to provide a statement. The mask slips. Greg's eyes narrow, his mouth twisting with contempt. You ungrateful little. Greg, my mother cuts him off, then turns to me, her voice softening to that pleading tone I've always hated. Rachel, honey, think about what you're doing. We're the only family you have left. Would your father want you to tear us apart like this? The emotional manipulation is so transparent it almost makes me laugh. Don't you dare invoke Dad's wishes when you've spent 6 years erasing him from this house. Josh appears in the doorway, eyes red-rimmed, arms crossed defensively over his chest. So what happens to me? Do you even care? I meet his gaze. This isn't about you, Josh. It's my home too. His voice breaks. You show up after years of being gone and suddenly we're supposed to just leave because of some paper? Not just some paper. The law. I stand, gathering the documentation I've spread across the table. You have 1 week to find a new place. I've already verified the will with the county clerk and confirmed my legal standing. The locks change on Friday. You can't just throw us out, Mom cries. Where will we go? The question catches in my chest a barb of guilt amid the righteousness. But I think of Dad's books packed away in the attic, of the opened mail, of 6 years of calculated deception. You've had 6 years to prepare for this day, Mom. I'm sure Greg has a plan. His silence tells me everything. I walk out, my heart hammering against my ribs, but my steps steady. For the first time since coming home, I feel something like power returning. Dad always said that people who take what isn't theirs count on you being too polite to demand it back. I'm done being polite. Have you ever discovered someone close to you had been lying for years? How did you handle the betrayal? Rachel's about to show exactly how to take back your power. Greg's text comes at 7 a.m. Family meeting, kitchen, 8 p.m. tonight. I place my phone face down on the hotel desk and continue typing up my eviction timeline. The audacity summoning me to a family meeting in my own house. The house where I'm currently not welcome to sleep. The locksmith arrives at 9 a.m. sharp. All exterior doors, he confirms, equipment bag slung over his shoulder. Yes, I say. And I'll need 6 sets of keys. He raises an eyebrow but asks no questions. I like that. While he works, I drive to the county clerk's office with a folder of documents. My father's will, the property deed, my identification. The clerk, a woman with silver-streaked hair and efficient movements, verifies everything methodically. Property taxes are current, she notes, looking up. But utility accounts are being transferred today. I finish. Each item on my list gets checked off with purpose. By afternoon, I'm meeting with my father's old lawyer, Derek, in his downtown office. He slides the eviction notices across his desk. This gives them exactly 1 week, he explains. The law allows for longer, but given the circumstances. I sign where indicated. 1 week is generous. Something unwinds in my chest with each signature. The tightness that's lived there since I tried my key in the lock loosens just a fraction. At 8 p.m., I walk into what used to be my kitchen. Greg sits at the head of the table me father's place. Mom's eyes are already red-rimmed. Josh slouches against the counter, glaring. Sit down, Rachel, Greg says, using his boardroom voice. I remain standing. This won't take long. This, Mom sniffles, is about family. Is it? I place my leather portfolio on the table. Because family doesn't conspire to steal from each other. Josh pushes off from the counter. You're destroying everything. This is my home. No, Josh, it's not. I keep my voice level. And that's not your fault, but it is the reality. Greg leans forward, elbows on the table. Rachel, be reasonable. We've lived here for 6 years. We've put money into improvements, under adverse possession, which requires the true owner to be unaware of the occupation. I cut him off, sliding the first document across the table. I visited. We exchanged emails about the house. I have proof I was aware of and permitted your residence here. Your adverse possession claim would never stand. His face flushes deep red. And here, I continue, placing down the second document, is the eviction notice. You have 1 week. Mom gasps. 1 week. Where are we supposed to go? That's not my concern. The words taste metallic, necessary. You've had 6 years to prepare for this day. Greg stands abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. You ungrateful little. I wouldn't. I meet his gaze. The property is now under surveillance. Any damage, any items removed that aren't personal belongings, will result in additional legal action. The mask slips. In his eyes, I see the calculation, the fury of a man whose scheme is collapsing. You'll regret this, he hisses. I nod once. Probably, but I'll regret it in my house. The next morning, Allison from work arrives with coffee and determination. Where do we start, she asks, surveying the living room. I hadn't expected this colleagues I've known for barely 3 weeks showing up with moving boxes and cleaning supplies. Behind Allison, Mark and Jen unload more supplies from Mark's truck. Dad's study, I answer. We start there. Josh's belongings have already been cleared out, relocated to the basement, I assume. The walls are bare except for tack marks where posters hung. The blinds still block my father's favorite garden view. As we work, removing the blinds and cleaning years of teenage existence from the space, there's a knock at the door. Mr. Winters, our neighbor for 20 years, stands on the porch. In his weathered hands, he holds garden tools my father's. Thought you might want these back, he says. Tom asked me to keep an eye on them while they were gardening. The air quotes are audible. Never saw much gardening happen, though. I run my fingers over the worn wooden handles. Thank you. Your dad was a good man. Mr. Winters nods firmly. Built this place right. Made it to last. Something about his simple acknowledgement of my father, the first I've heard since returning breaks, through my carefully maintained composure. My eyes burn. Would you like to come in for coffee? I ask. His stories about Dad last through 2 cups. Each one rebuilds something inside me that's been crumbling for 6 years. By early evening, Greg returns. I'm in Dad's study, now hanging the nautical prints that Mr. Winters had also kept an eye on for me. This is ridiculous. Greg announces from the doorway. You can't just... I can and I am. I tap the nail into place and hang the third print of Schooner under full sail. I've spoken to my lawyer. His voice holds less conviction than this morning. I turn slowly. Good. Then he'll have explained exactly how solid my position is, and how your attempted adverse possession could be viewed as fraud. He flinches. Where's Mom? I ask. As if summoned, she appears behind him, eyes fixed on the study's transformation. You found the pictures, she whispers. Mr. Winters saved them, along with Dad's tools. I straighten a frame. Why, Mom? Why did you let this happen? She steps into the room, her fingers twisting together that nervous habit I've seen my whole life. It was easier. After Tom died, everything was so hard. Greg said he'd handle everything. And then one change led to another, and soon it seemed impossible to go back. The truth is so mundane, so human. No grand conspiracy, just weakness and convenience. Josh appears in the hallway, watching silently. "I'm sorry, Rachel," Mom says, and for the first time since I arrived, I believe her. "I just wanted things to be easy." "Well, they're not easy now," I reply. "1 week, Mom. Find a place." That night, after they've gone out to look at apartments, I assume I tour my reclaimed space. Dad's old banker box of photos sits on the dining room table. One by one, I restore them to walls and shelves. Here's Dad teaching me to fish. Here we are building a bookshelf together. Mom and Dad on their 15th anniversary. I place the last photo Dad in this very study, surrounded by his books in the desk. It's almost midnight when I finally collapse onto my childhood bed, still covered in guest room linens, but mine again. For the first time in 6 years, I sleep in my true home. But just as Rachel thought the battle was won, she discovered something that would make Greg's betrayal even more sinister. What hidden evidence would turn this family drama into an all-out war? The camera shutter clicks as I document the chipped baseboard in what used to be my father's study. Evidence. Each photograph catalogs what they've done to my home. "Don't miss the water damage in the corner," calls Elaine, my father's former colleague and now my lawyer. Her heels click against the hardwood as she marks items on her clipboard. "Document everything before they're out." Already got it. I adjust the camera settings for better lighting. Through the viewfinder, I capture Josh's basketball posters. The adhesive that's damaged the carefully painted walls beneath. Dad would hate seeing his craftsmanship disrespected this way. The professional cleaners arrive at exactly 8 a.m. I scheduled them deliberately early enough that Greg can't interfere, late enough that it's perfectly reasonable. The team leader, a woman with efficiently pulled back hair, hands me a detailed contract. "We'll have everything sanitized and restored within 48 hours, she says. "Just in time for your official move-in date." I sign the paperwork, another calculated move. Every decision now carries equal weight, creates a paper trail. Elaine nods approvingly. "The formal communications went out yesterday," she says, her voice low. "The property boundaries are clearly established, and any further claims will be met with immediate legal action." Good. My voice sounds stronger than I feel. A crash from the kitchen interrupts us. I rush down the hallway to find Greg attempting to remove the high-end faucet he installed last year. "What are you doing?" I keep my voice level despite the fury boiling inside me. "These fixtures are mine," he grunts, wrench still gripped in his hand. "I paid for them." "Those fixtures are attached to the property," Elaine says from behind me, her lawyer voice in full effect. "Remove them, and it's damage to the premises." Greg's face flushes dark red. He drops the wrench with a clatter, stalking past us without a word. Later that afternoon, my phone pings with notifications. Social media alerts. Josh has posted a carefully angled selfie in his room, caption reading, "Last night in my childhood home because my greedy stepsister is kicking us out. Real family doesn't do this to each other." I should feel hurt. Instead, I screenshot it for Elaine. Another notification appears, a message from Mrs. Keller, our next-door neighbor for 15 years. "Rachel, I just had a disturbing conversation with your stepfather. He came over asking if I would sign a statement about their improvements to the house. When I asked questions, his story kept changing. Just wanted you to know I'm on your side." My phone buzzes again. A community group text from my mother. "Please keep our family in your thoughts as we navigate an unexpected housing change. Some of you have asked how you can help us during this difficult time." I set my phone down, refusing to engage. The professional cleaner catches my eye, raising an eyebrow at the sound of my continued notifications. "Family drama," I explain simply. "We see it all the time," she replies, voice neutral. "Especially in inheritance situations." By evening, 3 of my colleagues from the financial firm arrive with takeout and determination. Marisol starts unboxing my kitchen supplies, while David and Kim hang my father's nautical prints back in their rightful places. "My aunt went through something similar," says Marisol, carefully arranging glasses in the cabinet. "Her brother tried claiming their mother's house after caring for her. The courts shut that down fast. The neighbors keep stopping by," Kim adds, straightening a frame. "That older gentleman brought over what he said were your dad's garden tools, said he'd been safe keeping them. Mr. Reeves, Dad's best friend." My throat tightens. Everyone's being incredibly supportive. David says, unpacking books. You know what that means, right? They knew what was happening wasn't right. My phone rings, Josh's name flashing on the screen. I silence it. Not ready for that conversation yet. From the window, I spot Greg and my mother arguing in their packed car. I can't hear the words, but their gestures tell enough. Her head is in her hands. His face is tight with fury. Even from this distance, I can see the cracks forming in their united front. The phone buzzes again. A text from Josh. Did Dad really try to sell the house? Is that true? Another message arrives before I can respond. This one from my mother. I'm so sorry, Rachel. I never should have let this happen. Can we talk? Just us? I set the phone down without replying. Through the front window, I watch their car finally pull away. Greg's angry profile visible through the windshield, my mother's silhouette slumped beside him. My house keys feel solid in my palm, new keys for new locks. When I discovered what Greg had been planning for my father's home, I knew there was no going back. The final confrontation would change everything. I closed the curtains and turned back to my friends, my new family, who continue restoring my father's memory to these walls. The doorbell rings at exactly 10:17 a.m. I've been expecting this. Through the window, I spot Greg's silver Audi in my driveway. Deborah slumped in the passenger seat, face angled away from the house. Josh stands awkwardly beside Greg on my porch, hands shoved deep in the pockets of his oversized hoodie, shoulders hunched. I take a steadying breath, my father's watch heavy on my wrist, and open the door. Rachel. Greg forces a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. We've come to pick up a few things. I wasn't expecting you until this afternoon. I block the doorway, one hand still on the knob. Plans changed. He gestures to the house behind me. We won't take long. There are just some items that belong to us. I noticed the rental truck parked across the street. Not just a few things then. What items specifically? My voice stays calm, controlled. I've prepared for this moment for days. Greg's smile tightens. The dining room set, for one. Deborah's grandmother's, and the antique mirror in the hallway. My father's mirror? The one he restored himself? I raise an eyebrow. And the dining set he built for his and Mom's 5th anniversary? Josh looks up sharply, confusion crossing his face. Deborah remembers it differently, Greg says, shifting his weight. I'm sure she does. I step back, allowing them entry. Come in, let's discuss this properly. They follow me to the living room, Josh trailing behind, eyes darting around the transformed space. I've spent the past week restoring my father's presents, photographs back on the walls, his books returned to shelves, his favorite chair angled toward the window as it always was. I have something to show you, I say, retrieving a folder from the side table. Greg remains standing, arms crossed. We don't need paperwork, Rachel. We just need to get our things and go. Actually, you do need to see this. I extract a document, handing it to him. This is my father's will, specifying every item of significance in this house, including the dining set and hallway mirror. Both specifically left to me. His eyes narrow as he scans the page. This doesn't... And this, I continue, extracting another document, is the appraisal of those items from when my father died. And this, another paper, is the insurance coverage specifying them as heirlooms protected under my policy. Josh steps closer, peering at the documents in Greg's hands. Dad? His voice carries an edge of uncertainty I've never heard before. Greg ignores him. This doesn't change anything. We've maintained these items for years. Maintained them while living rent, free in my home, I remind him. And there's something else you should know. I walk to the small security camera mounted in the corner of the living room. I've installed these throughout the house, including one in my father's study that recorded you last week, searching through the remaining documents in his desk. The color drains from Greg's face. I also have copies of the emails you sent to Riverdale Realty 3 months ago, I say, pulling out printed emails with his name clearly visible. The ones discussing selling this house, my house, after I agreed to the arrangement you were planning to propose. Josh's head snaps toward his father. You were going to sell the house? You said we were just moving to something smaller because... Josh, wait in the car. Greg's voice cuts like steel. Number. Josh steps away from him. You told me Rachel was being selfish, that she was trying to kick us out after we'd taken care of her house for years. That's what he needed you to believe, I tell Josh gently, just like he needed Mom to believe she was doing what was best for everyone. The front door opens, and Deborah finally appears, eyes red-rimmed, arms wrapped around herself. She looks smaller somehow, diminished. Greg, please, let's just go, she says, not meeting my eyes. We're not leaving without what's ours. Greg insists, but his voice has lost its conviction. Nothing here is yours, I say firmly, and I think you need to leave now. You ungrateful little. He steps toward me, finger pointed. Don't. Deborah's hand catches his arm. She's right, it's over, Greg. His head whips toward her, disbelief etched across his face. What did you say? I said it's over. Her voice strengthened slightly. I never should have let this happen. Rachel's right about everything. Mom. I start, surprised by her intervention. Greg jerks away from her touch. After everything I've done for you, for that ungrateful son of yours? Josh flinches as if struck. For us? Deborah's laugh holds no humor. You were planning to sell Rachel's home out from under all of us. Where exactly did you think we'd go with that money, Greg? The silence that follows her question tells us everything. Get out, I say quietly, power settling into my bones. All of your belongings were moved to the garage yesterday. Take them and leave. Greg's face contorts with fury, but faced with 3 pairs of eyes mind steady. Deborah's resigned. Josh is betrayed, he finds no leverage. This isn't over, he spits, storming toward the door. It is for me, I reply. Deborah lingers, tears streaming silently down her face. Rachel, I'm so sorry for everything. I don't answer. 6 years of betrayal can't be erased with a single apology. She follows Greg out, shoulders bent under the weight of her choices. Josh stands frozen in the middle of my living room, caught between worlds. I didn't know, he says finally, about any of it. I believe you, I tell him, because I do. But that doesn't change what happens now. He nods, understanding but not accepting, and turns to go. At the doorway, he pauses. Would it be okay if I texted you sometime? The question hangs between us, complicated and raw. Through the window, I watch Greg throwing boxes into the rental truck, Deborah standing helplessly beside the car. I don't know yet, I answer honestly. Josh nods again and walks out, the door closing softly behind him. I stand in the entryway of my father's house, me house breathing, in the quiet that follows their departure. For the first time in 6 years, I feel the foundation solid beneath my feet. The walls truly mine. The inheritance my father left me, not just the structure, but the strength to reclaim it settles around me like a protective embrace. I turn the deadbolt with a satisfying click. 2 months have passed, and I can finally breathe inside these walls again. The smell of lemon oil permeates the air as I polish the oak banister Dad crafted by hand 20 years ago. Natural light pours through uncovered windows, illuminating corners that Greg had kept perpetually shadowed. I've stripped away the cold white paint, restoring the warm gold that Dad always said makes a house feel like someone's waiting up for you. Every weekend since they left has been dedicated to resurrection, not renovation. There's a difference. One erases, one remembers. In Dad's Study Me Study, Noah's nautical prints hang exactly where they used to. The glass newly polished, but the frames bearing the same small nick from when I threw a baseball indoors at age 7. His leather chair sits by the bay window, rest-stitched where it had cracked from neglect in the attic. When I sit there, reading with evening light falling across the pages, I sometimes feel the weight of his hand on my shoulder. The doorbell chimes, pulling me from my thoughts. Just let yourself in, I call, arranging a final cluster of hydrangeas in the dining room centerpiece. Voices fill the entryway, May from the financial firm, Davis from next door, and Sarah, my college roommate, who drove 2 hours to be here tonight. The same dining room where Greg once suggested I find an apartment now hums with genuine laughter. This place is transformed, May says, handing me a bottle of wine. It's like a completely different house from when I helped you move in. Same bones, different heart, I reply, leading them through to the dining room. We settle around the table beneath the watchful gaze of Dad's portrait that now hangs on the wall. His eyes seem to crinkle with approval as I pour wine into glasses that I found wrapped in newspaper in the attic, the same ones Mom and Dad received as wedding gifts. To new beginnings, Davis toasts, his glass catching the light. The conversation flows naturally, none of the strained politeness that characterized Greg's domain. I relax into my chair at the head of the table, Dad's old spitand, allow myself to enjoy the warmth of connection without obligation. Later, after everyone is gone, I sit on the porch swing with a cup of tea, watching fireflies rise from the garden I've coaxed back to life. Dad's rose bushes are blooming again after years of neglect. Like me, they just needed someone to care. My phone chimes with a text notification. Josh's name appears on the screen. Can we talk sometime? When you're ready, no pressure. I don't respond immediately. Dr. Levine, my therapist, has helped me understand that healing doesn't require immediate forgiveness. That boundaries aren't just walls but foundations. 3 unopened letters from mom sit in my desk drawer. I'm not ready yet, but not ready isn't the same as never. The neighbor across the street waves as she walks her dog, the same woman who slipped me dad's garden tools the day after Greg and mom left, saying she'd held on to them for safekeeping all these years. Tomorrow, I'll help Cam from work navigate his inheritance dispute with his brother. His gratitude when I offered feels uncomfortable. I'm not an expert, just someone who learned boundaries the hard way. But perhaps that's enough. I trace my fingers along the porch railing Dad built, feeling every whorl and grain of the wood. The house settles around me with familiar creaks and sighs as twilight deepens. Through the window, I can see Dad's photograph watching over the empty dining room, the echo of laughter still hanging in the air. Some houses are just buildings. This one is my inheritance, not just of property, but of who I am. Sand sifts between my toes as I watch the sunset paint the Florida Keys sky in shades of orange and pink. It should be breathtaking. It should be the highlight of my day. Instead, my phone pings with a notification that makes my jaw clench. Jessica has sent a selfie. Her and Mark, lounging poolside, tropical drinks raised high. Her caption reads, "Thanks for watching the kids, sis. We needed this alone time." I glance down at the blue wristband, circling my arm identical to the ones my nieces and nephews wear. Children's access. Not the sleek black bands that grant Jessica and Mark entry to the adults-only areas of the resort. "Aunt Haley! Tyler won't share the shovel!" Emma's voice cuts through my thoughts. I sigh and pocket my phone. "Tyler, remember what we talked about?" 10 minutes each, then switch. But I just got it. 7-year-old Tyler protests, clutching the plastic shovel like it's solid gold. His twin sister Emma stands with hands on hips, a miniature version of Jessica when she doesn't get her way. Meanwhile, 4-year-old Mason dumps a bucket of wet sand directly onto my beach towel. "Look what I made," he announces proudly. "That's wonderful," I say, brushing gritty sand from what was my only clean towel. I force a smile as I glance back toward the resort, where my sister and brother-in-law are enjoying their 3rd child-free evening of this family vacation. 3 months earlier. "We want you to come to the Keys with all expenses paid." Jessica's voice had dripped honey over the phone. I sat at my desk in my 1-bedroom apartment, deadline looming for a marketing proposal. But family always came first. At least, that's what I'd been taught. "Seriously?" I'd asked, already mentally calculating vacation days from my marketing coordinator job. "Absolutely. We've already talked to Mom and Dad. They think it's so generous of Mark and me." I could picture my parents nodding enthusiastically in the background. Any chance to get their daughters together was a victory in their eyes, despite Jessica being 8 years older and on a completely different life path. "That sounds amazing," I'd said, allowing excitement to build. A real vacation. At 25, with student loans and rent in the city, tropical getaways weren't exactly in my budget. "The kids are so excited," Jessica continued. "You can share them with them. They adore their Aunt Haley." Something in her tone should have triggered warning bells. It wasn't the first time Jessica had deployed the kids as emotional leverage. Throughout college, I'd lived at home to save money, while Jessica dropped off her children whenever she needed a break. "Girls are better with kids," Dad would say when I tried to object. "Your sister needs help," Mom would add, as if Jessica's choice to have children somehow obligated me to co-parent. "I'll pay you back," Jessica would promise after last-minute babysitting requests forced me to cancel plans. "I'll take them next weekend so you can study." Those weekends never materialized. My parents dismissed my frustration. "Family helps family," they'd say, as if that explained everything. Back to present. I dig my toes deeper into the cooling sand, watching Jessica and Mark laugh by the resort's tiki bar. 7 days in paradise, and I haven't seen a single sunset alone. Haven't had one meal without cutting someone else's food. Haven't swum without counting heads every 30 seconds. My phone buzzes again. "Can you keep them till 11? We found a great bar." My hands tremble slightly as I type OK for what I silently promise will be the last time. "Never again," I whisper to myself, low enough that the children don't hear. On our final night, we're seated at an upscale restaurant. I'm wearing the only dress I brought that Mason hasn't stained with juice or sunscreen. We should talk about next year, Jessica says, cutting into her mahi-mahi while I help Emma with her pasta. Mark's thinking San Diego. Same arrangement, of course. The casual way she says it like my time belongs to her. Like my presence on this trip has been a vacation rather than unpaid labor makes something shift inside me. I say nothing, cutting my food with precise, controlled movements, while the decision solidifies behind my eyes. The children chatter excitedly about sea lions and zoos. Mark and Jessica discuss coastal hotels. My parents would expect me to keep the peace, to agree, to put family first. But as I watch my sister take another sip of her wine, as she casually plans to hijack another week of my life, I realize something has fundamentally changed. This vacation wasn't a gift, it was a trap. And I won't be caught in it again. Travel brochures blanket my parents' coffee table like autumn leaves, San Diego Zoo, SeaWorld, Balboa Park. Jessica's manicured fingernail taps a glossy photo of Hotel del Coronado as she commandeers the conversation. So, we've found this amazing resort package, she announces to our parents, who nod with programmed enthusiasm. 2 connecting rooms with an ocean view. We'll have Mark's corporate discount, so it's practically a steal. Mom clutches her mug of tea, beaming at Jessica like she's announcing a 4th pregnancy instead of a vacation. Dad scrolls through his phone, half listening but making appropriate noises of approval. We'll book 2 rooms again. Haley can take the kids while we... I'll be booking my own room, actually. The words slip from my mouth with surprising steadiness. The living room falls silent. 4 pairs of eyes swing toward me like synchronized puppets. Jessica's finger freezes mid-tap on the brochure. What? Jessica's voice comes out higher than usual. I take a deliberate breath, feeling my grandmother's silver bracelet cool against my wrist. 6 months of private planning crystallize into careful words. I'm booking my own hotel room. I've been researching options in the Gaslamp Quarter. I pull out my phone, opening the bookmarked page I visited almost daily since our return from Florida. I'm also renting my own car, and I've made a list of sites I want to see. The confusion on their faces would be comical if my heart weren't hammering against my ribs. But who will watch the kids? Jessica's voice has dropped to a whisper, color draining from her face. Mom's nervous laughter scrapes the silence. Honey, that's not practical. Hotels in San Diego are expensive. I've been saving, I reply, scrolling through my hotel options. I put aside a little each paycheck since Florida. Dad waves his hand dismissively, the same gesture he used when I told him I was changing my college major. You're being ridiculous. This is a family vacation. I meet his gaze squarely. Exactly, and I'd like to actually experience it this time. Jessica's careful mask slips. Her eyes narrow as she stands, hands planted on hips. So you're just going to abandon us? After we invited you? After we're paying for your trip? Wait. Mark looks up from his laptop, brow furrowed. I thought you were paying her to babysit? The room temperature seems to drop 10 degrees. My sister's mouth opens, then closes. What do you mean, paying her? Dad asks, looking between Jessica and Mark. Mark's confusion deepens. Jessica told me she was giving Haley money for watching the kids on these trips. That's why I never questioned the arrangement. Jessica's face flushes crimson. I buy her dinner sometimes, and let's not forget we covered her hotel room in Florida. The room I shared with 3 children while you 2 had oceanfront privacy. I clarify. My voice doesn't shake anymore, and the occasional pizza doesn't quite equal 60 hours of childcare. Mom touches Jessica's arm. Sweetie, you told Mark you were paying Haley? Don't make this about me, Jessica's voice rises. Haley's the one threatening to ruin our family vacation. I uncross my legs and lean forward. I deserve a real vacation too. I'm still coming to San Diego. I'm still planning to spend time with everyone. I'm just not going to be the unpaid full-time nanny anymore. Jessica's eyes glitter dangerously. This is so selfish. You don't have kids. You don't understand what it's like to need a break. You're right, I say quietly. I don't have kids. That was your choice, not mine. Mark closes his laptop with a soft click. Jessica, did you pay Haley for watching the kids in Florida? The direct question hangs in the air. Jessica's mouth twists. Not with money, but yes or no? Mark presses. Her shoulders slump slightly. No. I pull out my phone again, opening Reddit. I wasn't sure if I was being unreasonable, so I asked for outside perspective. I turned the screen toward my parents. Thousands of people responded. Turns out this isn't normal family helping family. This is exploitation. Jessica lunges forward, trying to snatch my phone. You put our business online for strangers to judge? Dad takes the phone from my hand before she can grab it, scrolling with increasingly troubled eyes. Mom reads over his shoulder, her expression shifting from dismissal to discomfort. Let me see that. Mark extends his hand and Dad passes him the phone. He reads silently, his jaw tightening with each scroll. These people don't know us, Jessica protests, voice trembling. They don't understand our family dynamic. Maybe that's why their perspective is valuable, Mark says quietly, handing me back my phone. He turns to Jessica. You told me you were paying her? Jessica's eyes fill with tear-sure, reliable defense mechanism. You know we can't afford a professional sitter for entire vacations. So you volunteered your sister without compensating her? Mark's voice remains calm, but I recognize the edge in it. Mom clears her throat. Maybe we should all calm down and... No, I interrupt, surprising myself. We're having this conversation now, before any more plans are made. Jessica stands, pointing at me dramatically. She's being selfish. All I asked was for a little help with the kids so Mark and I could have some adult time. That's what family does. Dad rubs his temples. Haley, surely you can compromise. Mark cuts him off. Robert, how much would a week of full-time childcare cost? Dad blinks, caught off guard by the question. Well, I don't know exactly. About $2,000, Mark answers, expression grim. That's what Jessica expected her sister to provide for free. A heavy silence falls. I can almost see the mental calculations happening behind my parents' eyes the first time they've quantified what's been asked of me. Jessica's voice rises to a desperate pitch. If she doesn't help with the kids, we're not going. It's the threat she's always wielded, the family dissolving if I don't comply. But instead of capitulating, I feel strangely calm. That's your choice, I say softly. What happens next surprises everyone. Jessica grabs her purse and storms out, followed by a tight-lipped Mark. My parents exchange glances, uncertain whether to follow. In the sudden quiet of the living room, I remain seated among the scattered brochures, calm in the eye of the storm. I'm still going to San Diego, I tell my speechless parents. Without you. Mark and Jessica's kitchen smells like coffee and tension. Outside, the kids race through the yard, their shrieks filtering through the sliding glass door as they chase each other with water guns. Inside, we stand locked in a standoff that's been brewing for years. Mark drops a thick manila folder onto the marble island counter. The sound echoes in the suddenly silent kitchen. Show me, he says to Jessica, voice unnervingly calm. Where you paid, Haley? My sister's shoulders stiffen. She tucks a strand of highlighted hair behind her ear. Her tell when she's cornered. It wasn't always cash, she says. I bought her pizza. Gas money sometimes. And I let her come on vacation with us, she adds, lifting her chin. That's payment enough. Our parents shift on their bar stools. Mom studies her coffee mug like it contains ancient wisdom. Dad clears his throat but says nothing. Mark flips open the folder. Inside are meticulously organized receipts, schedules, and a spreadsheet that makes my heart skip. I've been tracking our expenses for years, he explains, not looking at Jessica. Every babysitter we've hired, every family obligation. His eyes meet mine. Every time Jessica said she was paying you back, and I never expected this from Mark. In all our family gatherings, he's been the quiet one, hunched over his phone, or discussing sports with Dad. Now I see what I missed. The attentiveness, the detailed observations, the growing suspicion. Mark, this is ridiculous. Jessica laughs, but it sounds brittle. Haley's my sister. Family helps family. Family helps family. He repeats, his finger tracing a column of numbers. Then explain why we have $8,700 in our budget labeled childcare reimbursement. That never made it to your sister? The air feels suddenly thin. Mom's hand trembles as she sets down her mug. 8,000? I whisper. Conservative estimate, Mark says. Standard babysitting rates over the past 4 years, not counting overnights at premium rates. He slides a calculator toward Jessica. Want to add it up yourself? My sister's face floods with color. We can't afford that. You know we're saving for the kids' college funds and the kitchen remodel. And San Diego, I add quietly. We had an arrangement. Jessica says, her voice rising. She turns to our parents. Tell them Haley lived at home rent. Free all through college. She owes us. I missed a job interview. I interrupt, surprised by my steady voice. Last year, when Tyler had the flu, you called me crying because you had that client presentation. Mom looks up sharply. I canceled a date with Alex the night you and Mark went to that concert. You said you'd pay me back with a spa day. I take a breath. I turned down a weekend marketing retreat in Chicago because Mason had his tonsils out, and you said you couldn't handle all 3 kids alone. The opportunities I've sacrificed materialized like ghosts between us. Not just hours or days, but turning points, chances, potential futures, all dissolved by the ring of my phone and Jessica's voice saying, I need you. Dad stares at his hands. We didn't realize. Because you never asked. I say, neither of you ever asked. Mark's jaw tightens as he looks at my parents. You enabled this, all of it. He turns to Jessica. This ends now. He pulls his checkbook from his pocket. The ripping sound as he tears out a check cuts through the kitchen. He writes deliberately, the pen scratching against paper. Jessica lunges forward. Mark, stop. We need that money for San Diego. No, he says, continuing to write. We need to make this right first. When he slides the check across the counter to me, I stare at the number, unable to process it. It's not the full amount he calculated, but it's substantial. More money than I've ever held at once. I start. You can, Mark says. You earned it. Jessica's eyes fill with tears. I can't believe this. My own husband, my own family, all turning against me at once. This isn't about sides, Mom says, surprising me. Her voice sounds stronger than it has in years. This is about fairness. Mark meets my eyes across the table. There's understanding there, an alliance forming in the ruins of old family patterns. I see him clearly for the first time, not just Jessica's husband or my nieces and nephew's father, but a person with his own sense of justice. I'd like to suggest family therapy, he says, still holding my gaze before turning to include everyone. There are deeper issues here we need to address. Therapy? Jessica scoffs through tears. So you can all gang up on me with a professional referee? So we can learn how to be a healthy family. Mark corrects. My father straightens. I think that's a good idea. Jessica stares at him in betrayal. Dad! Your sister deserved better, he says quietly. And your mother and I let it happen. In the silence that follows, I hear the children's laughter from the yard. Their world hasn't changed, but in here, everything has shifted. Mark refills his coffee. About San Diego, he says, as if we're discussing something ordinary, like dinner plans. I guess that's canceled now, Jessica mutters. No, Mark says. But we need new conditions. Separate accommodations respected. A professional babysitter budget included. Clear schedules for family activities with everyone's expectations aligned. No last-minute changes. Jessica's mouth opens in protest, but she looks around the kitchen and sees she's outnumbered. Even our parents are nodding. This isn't what family is supposed to be like, she whispers. You're right, I tell her, folding the check and placing it in my wallet. It's supposed to be better than this. Later, gathered in my parents' living room, we establish ground rules. Dad acknowledges his role in the situation, voice thick with emotion. Mom maps out a schedule for the San Diego trip that respects everyone's time. Mark takes notes on his phone, actively engaging in the planning of family activities and childcare arrangements. I watch Jessica across the room. She's complying, but her eyes dart suspiciously between Mark and me. Old habits die hard, and I wonder if she's already plotting how to return to the comfortable status quo where her needs come first. The check in my wallet feels like a talisman, a physical reminder that my time has value. But as Mark outlines the San Diego itinerary, I know that the real test still lies ahead. A family vacation with new boundaries sounds promising in a kitchen confrontation. But will it hold when we're actually there? The San Diego sun beats down on my shoulders as I hoist my suitcase into the trunk of my rental car. Freedom pulses through my veins with each movement, a stark contrast to last year's Florida Keys nightmare. You're really doing this? Mom asks, hovering near the curb outside baggage claim. Her eyes dart between Jessica and me like she's watching a tennis match where both players might suddenly attack the referee. I am. I slam the trunk with more force than necessary. The sound echoes through the pickup zone, drawing Jessica's narrowed gaze. She stands by their waiting shuttle, arms crossed, lips pressed into a thin line. The twins chase each other in circles around a concrete pillar, while Mason clings to Mark's leg. "We'll see you at dinner," I say, sliding my sunglasses into place. "Text me the restaurant details." As I pull away from the curb, I catch Jessica's reflection in my rearview mirror. Her eyes follow my car, with the intensity of a predator, whose prey has suddenly grown wings. Mark places a steadying hand on her shoulder and leans close to her ear. "Remember our agreement," I imagine him saying, though I can't hear the words through closed windows and growing distance. "This is Amber," Jessica announces at dinner, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. She gestures to the college-aged girl with a neat ponytail and professional smile. She'll be watching the kids when Mark and I need some couple time. The oceanfront restaurant buzzes with conversation and clinking glasses. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, waves crash against the shore in rhythmic pulses that match my heartbeat. Amber shakes everyone's hand, professional and poised. "I'm studying early childhood education at UCSD. I've been babysitting for 6 years." Jessica's smile doesn't reach her eyes. She leans toward me while the others chat with air. "She's not nearly as good with them as you are," she whispers, her breath warm against my ear. "Mason already had a meltdown when she tried to help him with his shoes." I take a deliberate sip of my wine, savoring the crisp flavor before responding. "She's getting paid to learn." Jessica recoils as if I've slapped her. The next morning, chaos erupts at the breakfast cafe. Tyler upends a glass of orange juice. Emma shrieks that her pancakes are touching her eggs. Mason crawls under the table, grabbing strangers' ankles. "Where's Amber?" I ask, cutting my avocado toast into precise triangles. Jessica examines her manicure. She can't make it until noon. Something about a doctor's appointment. 3 pairs of parental eyes turn toward me, expectant. The weight of their gaze feels familiar, a heavy cloak I've worn for years but recently shed. "That's frustrating," I say, taking another bite of my toast. "Haley, could you just—" Mom begins. Jessica's lips curl into a triumphant smile. I hesitate, years of conditioning battling against my newfound resolve. Mark glances at his phone. "Strange, she just confirmed she's on her way. Says she'll be here in 5 minutes." The flush that spreads across Jessica's cheeks confirms what I already suspected. Another manipulation. Another lie. Dad clears his throat. "I'll take the twins to see the koi pond in the lobby until she arrives." He catches my eye with a nod that might almost be apologetic before ushering the children away. Mom reaches across the table and touches my hand. "I'm sorry, Haley. We're still learning too." "Everyone gather for a family photo," Jessica calls from the beach blanket. The afternoon sun casts long shadows across the sand. I'm 20 feet away, shoes dangling from my fingertips, waves lapping at my ankles. The perfect moment of solitude I've been seeking all day. "Haley," she calls again. "Don't you want to be part of family memories?" The kids' voices join in chorus. Why doesn't Aunt Haley want to be with us? I recognize the setup immediately. If I stay at the water's edge, I'm the villain who doesn't care about family. If I join, I forfeit my hard-won independence. Before I can respond, Mark stands up. "She'll be in the next one after someone else takes a turn behind the camera. I'll take this one." Jessica's mouth opens and closes without sound. Her script suddenly useless. "You're tearing this family apart." Jessica's voice rises above the restaurant chatter. Tears streak her mascara as she stands beside our dinner table, fists clenched. Heads turn. Conversations halt. A waiter hovers uncertainly nearby. "All week you've been absent," she continues. "The kids keep asking where you are. What kind of sister chooses strangers at a museum over family time?" Mom and Dad exchange glances, their expressions pleading. "Fix this," their eyes beg. "Keep the peace. Do what you've always done." I set my fork down gently beside my half-eaten fish. The restaurant lights reflect in the pools of Jessica's tears, highlighting their calculated appearance. "I'm enjoying my vacation as planned," I say, my voice steady and clear. "And I'll join you all tomorrow for the zoo trip, just like we agreed last month." The silence that follows feels weightless, as if the oxygen has been sucked from our corner of the restaurant. Jessica stands frozen, her rehearsed tirade deflated by my simple refusal to engage. For the first time in 25 years, I don't rush to smooth her ruffled feathers. I don't apologize for existing on my own terms. I simply take another bite of my dinner and wait for the storm to pass. My phone vibrates against the nightstand at 11:17 p.m., jolting me from sleep. Jessica's name flashes on the screen, sending a spike of adrenaline through my veins before I even answer. Haley? Thank God you picked up. Her voice quavers with panic. Something's wrong with Mason. He's crying and won't stop. I think he might be sick. Can you come, please? I'm already stumbling out of bed, pajama pants twisted around my knees. Is he breathing okay? Did he hit his head? He's just, please hurry. Room 318. The line goes dead. I jam my feet into flip-flops, grabbing my room key and phone. The hotel hallway stretches empty before me as I race toward the elevator, heart hammering against my ribs. Mason's face flushed with fever, or worse, flashes in my mind. Whatever boundaries I've set, he's still my nephew. The elevator crawls between floors. I catch my reflection in its mirrored wall hair wild, eyes wide with worry, pajama top buttoned wrong. I look exactly like what I am, a woman yanked from sleep by emergency. When I reach their door, I don't even knock. Just swipe the spare key card Jessica had given me, just in case. The door swings open to reveal normalcy. The television flickers, casting blue light over the room. Tyler and Emma are sprawled on one bed, absorbed in a cartoon. And Mason, allegedly sick, allegedly crying, sits cross-legged on the floor, stacking Lego bricks with precise concentration. Jessica emerges from the bathroom, lipstick fresh, hair curled, wearing a black cocktail dress I've never seen before. Oh good, you're here. She smiles, reaching for a clutch purse on the dresser. Mark and I have reservations at that seafood place on the pier, the one with the jazz band. We shouldn't be too late. My throat constricts as realization slams into me. There was never an emergency. Where's Mark? The question comes out sharper than I intended. Jessica waves vaguely toward the door, checking on something at the front desk. He'll be up a minute. She checks her earrings in the mirror. The kids already had dinner, but there's pizza in the fridge if they get hungry again. I stand frozen, still processing the manipulation, the careful panic in her voice, the deliberately abrupt end to our call, the calculated exploitation of my love for her children. Mason's not sick. She barely glances at me. Oh, he was crying earlier, but he's fine now. The door opens behind me. I turn, expecting Mark in matching evening wear, ready for their night out. But he's in jeans and a faded San Diego Zoo t-shirt, confusion etching his face as he takes in the scene. Jessica dressed up, me in rumpled pajamas, the perfectly content children. What's going on, he asks. I thought you were checking on your sister. Jessica's smile falters. We're just... You told me Haley called with a problem, Mark says slowly, realization dawning. That's why I went to ask about sending up a maintenance person. The silence that follows feels physical, like something you could touch. Jessica's mask slips, just for a second, revealing naked panic. The door opens again. My parents step in, still in their day clothes. Mom's face registers surprise at the tableau. Jessica dressed for a night out. Mark in casual clothes. Me in pajamas. Mark texted us, Dad explains, his eyes moving from Jessica to me and back again. Said there might be a problem. 5 adults stand in loaded silence while cartoons play in the background. Tyler glances up, sensing the tension. Is something wrong? No, buddy. I say, finding my voice. Everything's fine. You guys keep watching your show. I turn to Jessica, who's now frantically typing on her phone, probably inventing some excuse. The rage I expected to feel isn't there. Instead, I'm oddly calm, like I've stepped outside myself to observe this scene from a distance. You faked an emergency with your child to trick me into babysitting. Jessica's eyes dart between our parents, seeking allies. I didn't. It wasn't like that. Mason really was upset earlier. Stop. Mark's voice cuts through her excuses. Just stop, Jess. His face is tight with controlled anger. You promised this wouldn't happen again. Mom steps forward, placing herself physically beside me instead of Jessica first in our family history. This needs to stop, Jessica. Jessica's composure cracks like thin ice. You're all against me now? After everything I've done for this family? For this vacation? Nobody answers. Nobody needs to. The silence speaks volumes. I'm going back to my hotel now, I say quietly. Good night. I turn toward the door, but Jessica's sudden sob stops me. I don't know how to do this without her help. The words burst from her like water from a broken dam. I've always had Haley. Always. What am I supposed to do now? Her question hangs in the air, raw and honest in a way Jessica rarely allows herself to be. For the first time, I see past her manipulations to the fear beneath. Mark crosses to his wife, placing gentle hands on her shoulders. Then we learn, he says quietly. Together, without putting this on your sister. Dad clears his throat. We should have taught you both independence. Not this. That's on us. Mom nods, her eyes wet. We created this pattern, and we let it continue far too long. For the first time in my memory, we're having an honest conversation, no manipulation, no martyr complex, no dismissing my feelings for family peace. Just truth, uncomfortable but necessary. I don't stay long after that. There's nothing more to say tonight, and I'm still processing what happened. But something fundamental has shifted in our family's tectonic plates. The next evening, I walk alone along the beach at sunset. The sky burns orange and gold above the Pacific, waves rolling in to kiss the shore in endless rhythm. For once, I'm not counting heads, cutting food, or watching the clock. I'm simply present, toes in the sand, breathing salt air. My phone buzzes. I tense reflexively, then force myself to check it calmly. It's a family photo, Jessica, Mark, and the kids building a massive sandcastle. The caption reads, "Enjoying family time, hope you're enjoying your sunset." No guilt trip, no emergency, no demand for my presence. I smile and snap a photo of the horizon, glorious in shades of fire and gold. I don't send it to anyone. This moment is mine alone, and that feels exactly right. The sizzle of burgers on the grill fills the backyard as I pull into my parents' driveway. 1 month since San Diego, and my heart still drums against my ribs when I see Jessica's minivan parked ahead of mine. I check my watch, 5:30 p.m. I'll be leaving by 7:30, as I texted everyone yesterday. I grab the store-bought cookies from my passenger seat. No more staying up until midnight baking for these gatherings. Aunt Haley. Emma races across the lawn, followed by her brothers. I brace for impact as they collide with my legs. Hey, monsters. I ruffle Tyler's hair, accepting their hugs without letting them knock me off balance physically or emotionally. Jessica stands by the grill, her posture stiff as our eyes meet. She offers a tight smile, then deliberately relaxes her shoulders. Progress. You made it, Mom says, kissing my cheek. No subtle comments about my late arrival or early departure plans. Another change. Dad flips burgers, nodding toward an empty chair. Grab a seat, Mark's getting drinks. No immediate request to help with the kids, no assumption I'll take over cooking duty. The energy feels different, lighter, almost hesitant, as if everyone is conscious of the new ground beneath our feet. Therapy was interesting. Jessica stirs her lemonade, the ice cubes clinking against glass. Dr. Lin has some thoughts about why I've always relied on you so much. My fork pauses halfway to my mouth. That's good. We found a college student, Mom says, filling the awkward silence. She watches the kids 2 weekends a month so Jessica and Mark can have date nights. She's majoring in childhood development, Mark adds, engaged with Mason instead of buried in his phone. Costs a bit, but worth every penny. The conversation flows around me, rather than through me. Questions about my work promotion, my weekend plans with friends. Not once does anyone ask about my availability to babysit. After dinner, Jessica corners me by the kitchen sink. I'm sorry. She scrubs a plate with unnecessary vigor. I've been learning why I relied on you somewhat wasn't fair. The words sound rehearsed, but her knuckles are white against the sponge. This cost her something. No, it wasn't, I agree, not erasing years with easy forgiveness. But I appreciate you saying it. She nods, her eyes meeting mine for a flicker before darting away. Mason drew you a picture. He misses you. I miss him too. The truth surprises me. I could take them to that dinosaur exhibit next Saturday. 2 hours, morning only. Jessica's head snaps up. Really? $40 an hour, booked a week in advance, no last-minute changes. I say the terms clear and non-negotiable. That's fair. She swallows whatever protest might have formed. I'll text you to confirm. Dad walks in, catching the tail end. Your mom and I think that's a good arrangement. Professional. Another shock me, parents supporting my boundaries instead of smoothing them away. Later, as we all gather for dessert, Jessica mentions Hawaii. For next summer, she says carefully. Separate rooms? Separate schedules? We could do some activities together, others apart. Instead of immediate refusal, I find myself considering it. Maybe. I need to see the full plan first. The possibility hangs between Yu's family connection without exploitation. At 7:25, I stand to leave. No one tries to convince me to stay longer. Thanks for coming, Mom says, hugging me without the usual clinging. No guilt trips, no manipulation, no expectations beyond the boundaries I've set. Walking to my car feels like floating. My phone pings as I slide behind the wheel. Jessica, thanks for coming. No pressure for next time. I smile as I drive away, not toward my sister's demands or my parents' expectations, but toward my own life and choices. The road ahead belongs to me.